Brainwashing is a colloquial term used to describe a mind that is utilizing controlled information on which to base its decision making. This concept is simple to understand. A mind, any mind, can only make decisions based on the information available to it at the time. The information of the time may come from the environment, other people, or experience and memory. If we limit or manipulate the information available to the mind, we also consequently influence the future decisions that will be made by that mind. This understanding is of course age-old, and we all are somewhat aware of this trick in modern times through mediums such as advertising. Most people are aware that the simplest way to escape the influence of the medium of advertising is, in theory, just don't look. This is a very good way to avoid purchasing products that we will likely discover after purchase we actually don't want at all. Job done. With this knowledge, we can protect ourselves and be free from the influence of advertising, and we can therefore avoid the resultant brainwashing as we go on to live our life. Unfortunately, to the methods of brainwashing that hold the most power in our world today, advertising compares as child's play. The most effective forms of brainwashing use our own biological selves to control the information available to our minds over extended periods of time. LEP shows us that our mind, or our consciousness, is in simplest terms an area of energy activity. The rays of light, which we call life energy dynamics, that make up the constantly changing energy activity of our mind are our immediate, right now thoughts and attitudes. These rays of light were each generated by our own heartbeat and refined through our DNA molecules before being managed through the biological chakra system by our mind, where they are then used to think and make decisions. In order to brainwash a mind, we must first somehow influence or control the information available to the mind. When using the natural biological self as the foremost brainwashing tool, one first must have a reasonable level of understanding concerning the role the biological self plays in the natural human creation of consciousness, the mind. Some thoughts and attitudes, specifically all of those described as lower deficiency needs by Abraham Maslow's psychological hierarchy of human needs, create rays of light, life energy dynamics, in the refinement stage through the DNA, which have a long enough amplitude to impact the cells of the nervous system with physical force and initiate one of hundreds of different chemical peptide releases into the bloodstream. We learn intensely about these peptide releases during immaturity. We learn which chemical peptides we like the feeling of, which chemical peptides we don't like the feeling of, and also how to influence the chemical peptides being released into another's bloodstream at any time. The feelings caused by these peptide releases into the bloodstream are commonly known as our emotions. As Maslow notices, the lower deficiency needs, including all of the physical emotions, are a natural system that by design is a learning tool whose purpose is to help the biological human reach maturity of mind. The resultant feelings from peptide releases are temporary and intense. When the chemical dissipates, the sensation fades to memory. Growing up is the experience of enduring the often unpredictable and temporary changes in mind state caused by our chemical peptide releases. These experiences then become the foundation for the way we build our mature mind. As we grow along our own path through life, we learn to manage the peptide releases of our own nervous system, emotion, with automaticity before we reach maturity and begin using our mind to evolve through the psychological growth needs. Observing with biofeedback technology, we find that the immature mind, following Maslow's description, sets the DNA in the initial generation stage to refine perception energy dynamics with amplitudes long enough to physically impact and potentially disharmonize the nervous system cells, otherwise known as life energy from the physical and emotional channels. While the mature mind sets the DNA to refine perception energy dynamics with amplitudes too short to physically disturb the cells of the nervous system, otherwise known as life energy from the intellectual and intuitional channels. The mature mind, therefore, cannot easily cause impact to the nervous system cells and initiate a chemical peptide response into the bloodstream. This doesn't mean that the mature mind no longer experiences the feelings of emotion. The feelings are simply more technically evolved. Instead of relying on haphazard chemical releases into the bloodstream to support temporary and intense feelings, the mature mind uses energy dynamics with smaller amplitude to begin thinking with, and calmly energizes the cells of the nervous system with well-refined high-frequency life energy dynamics in order to support feeling and meaning, mature emotion, leaving the bloodstream free of chemical peptide influences. Once we have fully grown past the influence of immature peptide releases into our bloodstream, unduly influencing our mind's decision-making, we are able to freely grow and build our mind along whichever path we choose. Once again, the mature mind does not lose emotion. It simply applies its now further refined energies to the process, rather than relying on simple chemical peptide releases into the bloodstream. Emotion for the mature mind demands a much higher level of focused effort than the simple emotion of the immature mind, and as such, the mature mind is likely to be far more discerning concerning emotional connections. There are two main strategies which can be used over time to limit the information available to a mind, and in doing so, affect the likely outcomes of the mind's decision-making processes. The two main strategies can be easily described as emotional addiction and fear. Both strategies take advantage of the immature mind's ability to initiate chemical peptide releases into one's bloodstream during times of decision-making.